So I'm going to start class a little unconventionally. I'm going to ask you actually to all open your phones. And I'm going to ask you to go to Instagram, Chabad Tamu. And there's a poll there asking, not a poll, there's a question. And it's asking you a question. Answer the question first. Let's start off with doing that, okay? I know I don't usually open class by saying pick up your phones. Just pick up
What's your favorite Seder memory?
Yeah, just write it on your own, whatever it is.
What's the page?
Chabad Tamu.
Got it.
Awareness your office.
Okay, and once you've done it, just let me know. Hold on, I need to share the meeting with someone who asked. Okay, so jump in and do that poll because I think it's going to be an interesting start. I actually am gathering the answers because I find the answers fascinating.
I just friended her.
Brandon.
Hi, Brandon. Are you on video? Okay. So, Brandon, we all went to Chabad Tamu. We started class by going to Chabad Tamu and doing the Instagram poll right away. Because not poll, but the question. The last question I asked this morning is, what is your favorite Passover Seder memory? And there's a reason we're doing that. Okay, so we all know that the Pesach Seder, I'm going to mute everyone just so that we have less background noise. But if anyone wants to unmute themselves, by all means, please just jump in and unmute yourself, okay? Just this will help us get some traction and cover some ground before it gets too noisy. Okay, so we all know that Passover is definitely one of the more popular, Pesach is one of the more popular celebrated Yom Tovim around the world globally. And you'll find people that are less affiliated or less connected or maybe coming with a different Jewish backgrounds from very diverse backgrounds. And yet Pesach and the Seder is something that's really, really well known. And so why and what do we what is it? What's the deal? In addition, a lot of holidays have observance, but this one, not only do we just celebrate when Pesach arrives, but actually there's a separate mitzvah, a separate command that which literally means in every generation, a person is obligated to feel as if they left Egypt, to really, really experience this leaving of Egypt. So a lot of us know. So first of all, okay, so there's one, hey Shayna, how are you? Glad you jumped on. Okay, so there's this one dynamic of the fact that we're supposed to experience as if we've left Egypt. So that's interesting. Okay. There's another dynamic of what's the deal with the Seder and how did it become so popular, stay so popular? Shayna, if you didn't do it yet, I asked everyone on the call to go on to Chabad Tamu's Instagram and answer the question because I would love to start with those answers actually. Okay. Your Seder memories. So look at the Chabad Tamu's Instagram if you have your phone near you, unless you're on it, and just answer the question, what's your favorite Seder memory? Okay, Sheena? Yes? We don't have to hear, what? I can't hear it. Hold on. Yeah?
It broke up so much I couldn't understand the question.
Am I breaking up a lot for everyone? No. Okay, so Shayna, maybe your internet. I was saying that you should go on to Chabad Tamu's Instagram and answer the last question because the information is going to be very interesting for today's lesson. What I noticed so far since I asked the question, and I got about 8 answers so far, is everyone's experience in the Seder is kind of different. Okay, there are people who love the song. There are people who love the food. There are people who really love the hands-on activities. There are people who love the prayer and the tradition. And everyone has kind of, the Seder evokes different emotions for different people. And not only does it evoke different emotions for different people, but it also means different things to different people. And now we're actually living at a time where there are many of us that are going to be having Seders alone for the first time in our lives. And how do we do that? How do we take this command to have this daily experience as if we left Egypt and this fundamental centerpiece of the Pesach Egypt experience that's translated for 3,000 years, right? We've been doing this Seder, Lala Seder, acknowledging this night when we left Egypt. So there has to be a connection between the message of leaving Egypt, the Seder we observe, the symbols of the Seder, which mean different things to different people, and how does that flow together into something that I could take daily? We always talk about, when every Jewish holiday shows up, we always talk about the idea that, we always say that Hasidim we, as Hasidim, we say that, as Hasidim, we know that we always say that every Jewish holiday has a symbol and a message and things, ideas, and we're supposed to take it into our lives moving forward. But yet, with Rosh Hashanah, it doesn't say every day imagine as if God, like you're at Rosh Hashanah and you're being judged. Or at Sukkot, it doesn't say every day imagine that you're living in a sukkah. So what is it about the Pesach message that's so fundamental? And we know from the Pesach stories where we became a people, is where we became who we are now. So there's something in the psyche of the Pesach message, that translates into the Leil HaSeder, where we hyper-focus on the themes and ideas and messages of it, that we are able to actually take into our daily lives. So jump in here for a second. If you didn't do it, if you want, share with us. I'm going to unmute everybody. Share with us what are some of your favorite parts of the Pesach, like memories or Seder experiences for you. It could be any. Anyone want to share? Joey, go ahead.
I don't know. I have memories of going with my family to our like close friends every year, and we would only see them like this one time of the year, but it was always really good to see them when we did, and it was just us coming together.
So the connection between friends and community, like the idea of building community, and like this was like something special when you saw things. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Beth, do you have any memories from any Seders?
Yeah, like spending time with family was really nice, and like connecting over Jewish values and like prayer that like my family usually didn't focus on.
So it was a kind of a one time a year that there was like an opportunity to connect to something
use a plastic
spiritual.
knife and only
Brandon, go
snip
ahead. I
off
can't
the
hear you.
part
Say it again.
Up to where you cut, and then everything else is
Brandon,
good.
Brandon, we couldn't hear you. Say that again. Brandon.
Sorry about that. Yes, sorry about that.
What's your favorite Seder memory?
Learning that there were 2 Seders and 8 nights.
That was your favorite? I think some people would be like,
That's my favorite part. Because I was like, here I think that Passover is just like a one day thing, and then I find out, oh my gosh, it's actually you get to do it twice, and it's for 8 days.
All right, so Brandon, let me hear some of growing up. What's your favorite Seder memory?
Getting to be by friends and family that I wouldn't see all year except for on Passover.
Right. So we have 2 votes for that. Nathan, what about you? Any Seder experiences?
So I met Jeremy last year at my first Seder ever, and we became pretty good friends as a result. So just playing off of the friend and family thing, like I would have never met him, probably never would have become friends if not.
The amount of connections we make at the Seder. Yeah. Masi, do you want to share with us something? Like a highlight of your Seder?
Yeah, so we used to go actually to Detroit to my grandparents, who we didn't get to see very often. So that was a nice family time there. See my cousins and everything.
Like everyone coming together.
Yeah.
Dana, what about you? Any memories that are... No? You jump in if you think of anything. Or even your favorite part of the Seder, like something that you really enjoyed in the Seder. When I was a kid, we used to get the cups of grape juice, and we used to see how grape juice stained we could make our haggadahs. And the one who had the most stains was this winner. It was a competition my parents for sure did not know existed. But I don't even know why we did and why we thought that was a cool thing. I can't actually answer that. So I'm sure some child psychologists will be able to analyze that. But it was like this unwritten thing. Shayna, did you have any favorite food of the Seder? Oh, you're muted. We're going to unmute you, babe. Hold on. Yeah. Nope.
Oh, she has to hit accept.
I did it.
What was your favorite food of the Seder? Any favorite foods or songs?
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't want to sound like repeating what everybody else said about family, and friends. But I feel like there was just a really overwhelming sense of community, because it was one of the times when people who I didn't normally see were here, and just it was a time when you're sitting at a table and you're looking around and you really feel like you're part of
something bigger.
I think was always my favorite part.
Interesting. It's so interesting because for some people their answer is brisket. For some is the silly skits or songs that their family would share. And it's so nice to see that everyone in community. So what is it about this communal feeling? Because really it's the night that without that night we wouldn't become a people.
Yeah.
So it is fundamental. And it is where we get back to who we are. And you know what? You find across the spectrum of Jewish life, really people celebrate the Seder. And so they're, whether they're doing one Seder or two Seders or how they're celebrating, the how may be a little bit different, even though the Seder, interesting, the word Seder obviously we know means order, like Sidor, in the same word. And it actually is, it's a specific order of things. I always say it's like a 15-step program. Okay. So we're going to have another evening where we focus on each step, the Kadesh Orchatz Karpas Yachatz. We're going to do a mock Seder where we're going to actually go through it. And that's going to happen next week, probably Sunday or Monday, where we're going to go through the actual steps of the Seder so you can know how to do them on your own. Today, I just want to kind of give you some zoomed out background and perspective and mindset as to why we approach Pesach with this unique perspective and with this, like why it became something that's such a command that every day we should, as if we left Egypt. So we all know, and I shouldn't say we all know, but we know, how do you say Egypt? Mitzrayim, right? Joey, do you know how you say Egypt in Hebrew? I just gave the answer.
I just said it. I think I said it before you.
Good, I didn't hear. Mitzrayim. Yeah. So we know Chassidus, the famous translation from Chassidus, that Egypt is not just a destination, but it's actually a mindset. So the explanation is it's Mitzarim and Mitzrayim are the exact same letters. Just switch the vowels a little bit. They're very, very closely connected. And Mitzarim means limitations, boundaries or limitations. Those are the things that hold us back in life. And I think we all can relate to different things that hold us back in life. And we're not going to focus so much on that right now, but because everyone in our own, I think now, specifically in this time, we're really facing a lot of ourselves. And part of the thing that I noticed that's so uncomfortable about this isolation, about the quarantining, about the social distancing, is usually we could distract ourselves by going to the bar or going to movies or hang out with friends. And now there's no distraction. We are ourselves. And we have to examine our own limitations, our own boundaries, our own things. I even saw as a family dynamic when once we had all 6 kids under one roof and we put ourselves in self-quarantine for 2 weeks till everyone was done their travels, suddenly I noticed some family dynamics cropping to the surface that really needed more attention. And I said it to the family, I said, guys, in 1 week of us all being here, these are 2 dynamics that I think we need to, as a family, work on. Because those are things that I saw were limiting or holding us back from being a better version of ourselves as a family. So that we certainly can all understand, we can all look inward and see what are things that are holding us back. And this is not a confessional, not our style. We don't need to do that today, but we can all understand that there are definitely things that hold us back from maximizing our potential. So when you think to yourself, like, there's no way I can ever do that. Or this is so out of my comfort zone, anytime we say I cannot, or we limit, or we have things that also enslave us. So anyone think of some examples in 2020 of things that enslave you? Aside from self-imposed limitations, the narrative in our head, right? We all can relate to that narrative being maybe limiting. Anyone else think of anything? Anyone? I can unmute you all if anyone wants to jump in. It's definitely more interesting than just my voice. Anyone think of anything that they could think of it kind of as enslaving them in 2020?
School.
In what way?
This is probably my hardest semester so far. So.
Joey, I have to say, a lot of students actually mentioned like doing this online stuff has been so much harder than they ever imagined.
It's very difficult, actually. Only because also just like not being able to like easily ask a question just like right then and there, or just go to their office hours. Now so you have to like set up meetings and set up times like specific. Like you can't just go. It can be difficult.
Yeah. Anyone else think of things that it can enslave them?
Coronavirus.
They're holding you back. Go ahead. What?
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. Yeah. I feel like we're like literally being oppressed by this, right? It's containing us. It's holding us back. Yeah. And it's something we actually can't control right now. The biggest thing we could do is just stay on our own, actually, which is really not so pleasant. Anyone else? Shayna, do you have anything that holds you back or that controls you or enslaves you?
I have trouble sleeping at night. I have insomnia. So during the day, a lot of the times I'm really tired. So I'm kind of
exhaustion.
Lazy. I'm tired, so I don't feel like going out. So even during the semester when I could, if I have a little bit of time, I'm tired and I don't feel like going out or being social.
Okay. So other things that stop you from maybe maximizing your potential or doing things that you would want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Woo! Definitely lost the paper. Hold on. Okay. And I'm back. Way, way, way worse. Brandon, anything that holds you back? Hi, Talia.
Oh,
Okay, so what we're going to do is I would love to look at some of the symbols of the Seder itself and see how those symbols that are so kind of across the board are things that could actually help us free ourselves. Because like we said, Mitzrayim is a location, but it's also a mindset. That's the very classic Hasidic definition. So if I say symbols of the Seder, what's the first word that comes to mind?
Matzah.
Matzah. What else?
Bitter.
Bitter herbs. Okay. Anyone else?
Seder plate.
The Seder plate. All the different items on the Seder plate. It's such a kind of an interesting collection of stuff that we put at the center. It's like an interesting centerpiece. Okay. Anyone else? Beth, do you have anything? I'm surprised no one said the wine yet, guys.
Table.
Table. What part of it?
Just like the whole thing. Like usually there's a bunch of people just like squished around a table that's too small for that amount of
The
people.
formality of the table,
Yeah.
like just the whole like vibe, the togetherness, the chaos, the squishiness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shayna? Clearly Manischewitz, right, Shayna? Not Manischewitz.
Yeah.
I mean Rashi.
So wine, I guess, but mostly matzah. If like the first thing that would pop into my head would just be matzah.
Right. It's interesting. This is also something that like will vary per person, but like interesting. So we'll start with the matzah because the matzah is the most kind of, well, of all the obligations, like the halachic obligation of the Seder is what? Anyone know what the three things that are an obligation that without it you have not fulfilled the Seder? Does anyone know?
Telling the story.
Okay. Telling the story.
Eat matzah, 4 cups, and there's one more I can't remember.
All right. Mar.
Oh, remember.
The Mar.
Oh, the mar. Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll talk about it in a second. Okay. So we know that obviously this is the birth of us as a nation. So psychologically, a lot of the things that we're doing here tie into who we are and how we have persevered through generations. So let's look at, first of all, the wine. Because even though the matzah is very central, we start with the wine. Now, obviously, Rabbi's classic line, and no good party starts with a salad. Okay, that's a funny line. But really, what does the wine represent? And actually, specifically, people are have accustomed to specifically make sure the wine, at least by the Leil HaSeder, is red wine. Anyone could think of why? Red wine?
Blood.
Yeah.
The first
one's
plague.
red in color is reminding us of the blood. So it's reminding us of the blood of affliction, meaning our forefathers, our ancestors, their affliction, they went through that one layer. And the other aspect is what other blood is very central to the Passover story?
The plague.
Well, the plague, okay. But there's another one that kind of bridges us into where the whole name of Passover comes from.
The blood on the doorpost.
Yeah, the blood on the doorpost, which is God passed over the homes that had the blood. Now, the Paschal offering, okay, the Karban Pesach, was actually one of the sheep was the god who the Egyptians idolized. The Jews brought the sheep inside, then slaughtered it, and they put the blood on the doorpost, and that is where God knew to which doors to pass over. So that's the one idea of the blood. And it's actually, obviously, we also know that wine is used in any special ceremony, right? A Brit Milah, a wedding, Shabbat. Wine is a significant drink. And on the Seder, we feel like royalty. We sit in our nicest clothes. Our table's set beautifully. We have beautiful food out on the table. And also wine represents the freedom. Because that Passover is what actually transitioned us from being enslaved to now where it was like that final straw where then we became free. And okay, so we know the wine. We make kiddush on it. We drink 4 cups of it. Anyone know why we do the 4 cups? So there's 4 It's called Arba Lashonot Shel Geula, the 4 words that describe how God redeemed the Jewish people. Anyone know them? V'hitzeti, v'hitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lekachti. And they represent those 4 different kind of modes that God expressed in, or how God removed us from Egypt during those four ways. It's called the Arba Lashonot, and we actually say it. Hold on a second. I'm just writing it down. Sorry. Okay. The four ways that God took us out of Egypt. Now, that is one of the ideas that we had. Now, we know the matzah. Now, anyone know what matzah represents? So matzah is mem tzadik hey. Chametz is ches mem tzadik. Okay. They both have a mem and a tzadik. And the ches, which is a closed letter for chametz, and the hey, which we know is an open letter. So what's the differences? Let's discuss some of the differences between chametz and matzah. I'm going to unmute you all. Jump in. What are some of the differences? You had matzah, right? Describe it. Go ahead. Anyone?
You're saying the differences between matzah
Chametz and matzah. Go for it.
Chametz is very like hearty and like full, whereas matzah is very thin and it breaks very easily.
Okay.
So leavened and unleavened.
Unleavened and leavened. What else?
Tasty and gross.
Tasty and cardboard. I said I really can't wait for Mashiach to come because I'm from what I understand, the matzah of the generation that actually ate it was like more of a lafa. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it.
I don't mind matzah. Is that weird?
Beth, I have to tell you, I love shmur matzah. I really
don't mind it.
I actually like it.
Yeah.
I actually like it.
It's good for a day. It gets old.
What do you mean just for a day you like it?
I like matzah for like a day. It gets old by the end.
Gets old? I hear you. Okay, so chametz actually represents, according to Chassidus, anyone know what chametz represents? It's a very classic explanation according to Chassidus. Anyone know?
Yeah, it's, what's the word?
Ego.
Ego, that's the word, yeah.
Ego. And what does matzah represent, Joey?
Letting go of your ego and humility, yeah.
Yeah. So the chametz, which is risen, and it's complex ingredients, and it's quite delicious, and it's bloated, it's big, it's fluffy, it represents, and it has a lot of time to focus on growth and self. And matzah, made in haste, in simple, flat, represents the ability to make space for others, and that's so the ches is closed. I have no space for you. You ever met someone like that? They don't have space for anyone else's perspective. You ever notice that? Sometimes in social media, you'll follow someone on Facebook and like anyone else's opinion, they have no space for. They're operating in an echo chamber. You ever met those people? Has anyone? You could just nod your head if you have. Yeah, right? I have no space. It's me, my perspective, my view. That is what chametz represents. Matzah, on the other hand, space for someone else, the hey, which is open, is I have space for you. I have space to see things through your perspective. I don't have to agree with you. And I even don't have to like what you're saying, but I have space for you. And so the chametz is actually a very deep, deep exercise, which is why it is a mitzvah, which is why it is something that we're supposed to remember. And it's why it's so fundamental to the Seder that so many of you said it was like one of the symbols you thought of. The need to be able to make space for someone else, I think it's a deep exercise in 2020, a very deep exercise. And it will improve every single relationship if we take this mitzvah, this focus of chametz and matzah seriously, which is why we need to rid our homes of it. And how do we practically do that? Anyone want to share practically how you do that in 2020 in your own home? You all have your own rooms. Some of you live in your own apartment. So if it's your own bedroom, if you're not in a house that's going to observe Pesach, then at least in your own room, remove the chametz. What chametz do you have to, how do we do that? Does anyone know what's the process of removal, chametz removal?
Are you referring to the spoon and the feather?
Nope.
Or like actually like vacuuming.
The actual vacuuming. We want to make this practical.
Yeah, getting every little corner and crumb everywhere in the room.
Sweep and mop and look under the cushions of your couch. And if you know you eat Cheetos in your bed, I don't know why you would do that. Then change the linen and vacuum underneath it. I don't know who would eat Cheetos in bed. That's disgusting.
Orange sheets, just, you know.
Yeah. So wherever you know there's chametz, honestly, even check your backpack. If your backpack has some leftover snacks in it. I actually noticed that my backpack from the last time I traveled had chametz in it. So, you know, if you have a coat pocket that you wore, just check the pockets, just kind of remove it. But the removal is not just meant to be a literal removal, because on Pesach you cannot bal yirad, bal matzah. You shouldn't see it, you shouldn't own it, you shouldn't find it. It's also getting it out and not having it, not in my possession. It's not just an exercise that's like a fake just clean up or spring cleaning, because it's not spring cleaning. It's actually an exercise of self-refinement. So as we're doing it, and even if it feels overwhelming and frustrating, we can actually focus on the fact that what parts of my own chametz can I rid myself of? And that's a big question. So it's exercise number one is what part of ego, of self, again, we're having so much time to focus on self. What part can I put in place? I was just having a discussion with someone who's, you know, in a different city and dealing with quarantine and dealing with worrying about older parents. And she said, I'm really working on this time when I prepare for Pesach to focus on how I can improve. And that's a really powerful exercise that we could take with us, which is why we can understand that every single generation, every single day, whole darvah every generation, we have to feel as if we left Egypt. We have to relive that story of focusing on the things that were enslaved, focusing on the ego that holds us back. Because the last time you got angry is because someone hurt your feelings. Think of the last time you got angry. Right?
Taking my test.
Right. But why did you if you could be vulnerable and share with us, how would taking your test be about ego? Meaning, why would that anger come from ego?
Oh, probably because if I have such an ego to think, I don't know.
No,
I studied for the test.
Challenge yourself to think.
I don't know. If I'm upset that I didn't do well, maybe it's because I think I'm better, I'm better than I actually was at what I was doing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I should have studied a little more.
Or maybe you're angry at yourself, or maybe you can accept that this course load is bigger than me, right? All of those can be reality. Those are all real feelings. Very real feelings. What else? Anyone else want to jump in and share something of that the last time they got upset was about them?
Yeah, I get annoyed with my siblings for not cleaning up after themselves because we're all stuck in the house right now. And pretty much it just bothers me because I don't want to live in a messy house.
Do you also feel like, why am I the only one that cares?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I could relate to that. I'm like, seriously, clean up after yourself. Why am I the only one that cares? Why am I the only one that knows this? But that's all about me, right? Yeah. Anyone else want to share before we move forward with other symbols? Okay. So the next symbol is, obviously we want to get our shmur matzah lined up, ready, set aside from everything else. Obviously we want to clean our house for Pesach, remove every chametz. Any chametz that you don't want, guys, it's not spring cleaning. Close the cabinets they don't need. Wipe down your counters, cover the counter so you don't see anything. Put the stuff that you need for Pesach. It's only 1 week. It's totally fine. And then you go online and you actually sell your chametz because you're saying, I don't want any chametz related thing. Guys, real freedom comes from getting over our ego, which is not easy. It's a forever life task. It's a ongoing avodah. So that's why we need it in every generation. That's why we need to know it every day. That's why we need to talk about the story, because it's so fundamental to our psyche and to taking that message into who we are and where we head in life. The other thing we do, obviously, what are other foods of Pesach? So we know the bitter herbs of Mar. Some of you share that. And obviously that reminds us of the bitter times that we have. Now, I always say this, like, and obviously that could be romaine lettuce leaf, or it could be romaine lettuce people have, obviously horseradish. And
is there a problem with romaine lettuce still?
No, romaine I think right now it's safer to
eat lettuce than leave the house.
Yeah.
It's safer to buy it than to go out and buy it.
Right. No, I don't think there is such an issue with romaine lettuce right now because maybe because we're like, oh, it's just E. coli. E. coli's so not a big deal compared to COVID. I don't know. No, but I don't think romaine is an issue now. But obviously you want to try to get horseradish if you can, because that's the bitter part. That's what you want on the Seder plate as well. And we have that. Okay. Reminds us of the bitterness. And I often say, like, why are Jews so obsessed with bitterness? Like, why do we have, then we have the salt water, which reminds us of the tears. And we take the karpas, the spring vegetable, and we dip it in the tears. The spring is representing, the holiday happens during the springtime, representing growth and representing progress. And what do? We dunk it in salt water. Just in case we were focused on the progress too much, let's put it in some tears. What is that? So Jews are not obsessed with negativity. We're not. We're not obsessed with nabach por us. We don't have a victim mentality. But yet we're obligated to reenact these things, and we're obligated to re-experience these things because deep-rooted in it is such a powerful message for our psyche. Is knowing where we come from and knowing where we are and knowing where we're headed, right? And we say at the Seder, V'hi she'amda, in every generation, they tried to get us, but Hashem saved us. So that's part of who we are. Remember this conversation I had with Levi where he said, every generation they bothered us. Every generation, why in every generation? And I looked at him and I said, Levi, you can ask why in every generation, or you can wonder how miraculous it is that in every generation we still exist. Where are the Babylonians? Where are the Egyptians? Where, right? Every single enemy that rose and came to surface, we turned them into a delicious dish, a food, something. We're going to probably come out of this COVID thing with some sort of yummy new dish. I don't know what it is. I haven't thought of it yet. If anyone thinks of something creative, let me know. Right? It's a different type of battle.
I heard a cool thing. Like the Jewish people are like dust, but when you try to trample dust, it ends up surrounding you.
That's a fascinating. Where'd you hear that? That's a cool.
I think I heard that from Rabbi Bell.
That's a cool. In
Montreal.
Very cool analogy.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joey. So we know we have this. So what's this obsession with negativity? We're not obsessed with negativity. We're actually very commanded to be forward focused and not staying in a slave mentality and not working backwards, but it's to acknowledge where we come from and to also acknowledge that the bitterness that we experience is meant to actually propel us into greatness. We appreciate freedom. We're going to appreciate going and celebrating Shabbat together after this situation so much more than we ever did. So those negative experiences actually propel us into greatness and propel us into positivity. The question is how we navigate it, and that's a different, discussion, which is important. And we need to focus on that, right? How to give practical tools to navigating this deep introspection, this time of self, this time of loneliness, this time of maybe I'm going to have my Seder myself. Maybe I'm going to be trying to have a Seder in my house where no one else wants to have a Seder. That's really hard. Everyone else wants to eat pizza and McDonald's, and I have to have a Seder. How do I do that? Right? And if anyone's specifically worried about that, message me, because I am preparing Seders to go. And obviously it's a little harder to get a Seder to go for anyone outside of the College Station area. But if someone wants to drive up here and take food for the Seder to go, we're happy to work through that as well. Okay. I may have someone go to Houston later this week. So if I can get some Seder food ready for you beforehand, let me know. Okay. Happy to just private message me. So we know we have our bitter herbs. Again, not focusing on negativity, but acknowledging the bitterness in reality and how it propels us forward. We know we have the salt water, which we dip the spring vegetable, which is growth and renewal, and we dip it in the salt water to remember the tears, to remember where that growth comes from, and to remind ourselves that, and again, we need to know this message so much, is that through challenges, we actually become better, stronger, healthier. We do. It's hard to see. We can look backwards and we can see how that's the case, but it's hard to do when we're in it, right? So when you're in something like this, you got to just look backwards and say, when's the last time I really had a big struggle and I came out stronger because of it? More growth. The other thing we have is a charoset. Anyone know what's in the charoset?
Apple, honey, nuts, sometimes.
Apples, pears, nuts, some cinnamon. Different people have different traditions, put different things in. But what is it supposed to symbolize? The mortar, the cement. Again, seemingly so possibly negative, but it's to remind us that our ancestors were subject to harsh slavery. Give us a perspective. On the Seder plate, we have the mar, we have the charoset. We also have the zeroa, the shank bone, or the neck. We use the chicken neck. Chabad uses that. And it represents what? Does anyone know? The Pesach offering, right? Represents a Pesach offering, which was roasted. That's why we roast it specifically. So if you're at home and you're getting a chicken neck, roast it on an open flame to remind us of the sacrifice. And with that, bezroya nituya, with zroa, nituya, with an outstretched hand, which also talks about the zroa, is how God redeemed the Jewish people. It's a term, bezroya nituya. We say that in the Haggadah. But the zroa is to remind us of Shenkbon, it's to remind us of the Karban Pesach, Paschal offering. And obviously, then what else do we have? We have, anyone else know what's on the Seder plate? What else is on the Seder plate?
Egg, I think.
Yeah, an egg. And what does it represent? Anyone know?
Rebirth. I don't know.
Yeah, birth. Yeah, cycle of birth.
The Jewish people.
Of growth. The Jewish people. Yeah. The other thing it also symbolizes is the Karban Chagiga, which was a holiday offering that the Jews gave in the temple. So it has two purposes. One, remember, look at that egg and say, yes, I'm in this point where I can't see that growth, that spring, that forward, but I know it's going to happen. And everything is a cycle. And it symbolizes that the more oppressed we've become, the stronger we became, right? When you take an egg, take it and you put it in water and it becomes stronger. We become stronger from those experiences. Again, hard to imagine, and we never ask Hashem for them, ever, but we have to remember that it's part of it. And we have 3 matzot on the Seder plate. Anyone know why 3 matzot on the Seder plate? I'm actually going to move that to a different place, but anyone else know why?
Kohen Levi is.
Yeah, representing the 3 different categories, the Kohen, the Levi, and Yisrael of Jews that were all united at this moment, right? And the other thing actually it talks about is that when the angels came to visit Abraham and Sarah, Sarah was prepared for them a meal. And actually, she prepared matzah. And Avram, they measured flour for it, and it was a portion of 3. Okay, and that's when Avram was commanded to get his circumcision. When he was, recovering from his circumcision, it was told that Yitzchak would be born. So that's also an interesting thought. The other one is that it represents the Kohen, the Levi, and the Yisrael, which Brandon said. And another one talks about that it represents the patriarchs, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We also know that we have 2 loaves of challah on Shabbat, and it's a holiday. So we have a double portion on Passover. We need 2 challahs for the bracha. And then we have 3 by the Seder because we're going to break one before we're going to make motzi matzah. So that's also another just halachic point, is that usually we have 2 for lechem mishnah. So we have 2 of the ramatzas, and the third one we're going to cut up. Now, we said the Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. So that was the very beautiful explanation. Thank you, Brandon, for sharing it. And yes, all together at the Seder, meaning we're all celebrating this because that's when we all became a people. Why the 4 cups? Did we talk about the 4 cups of wine yet? The 4 expressions of redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for our birth. V'hitzeti, I will take you out. V'hitzalti, I will save you. V'ga'alti, I will redeem you. V'hiveti, and I will take you as a nation. That means, v'lakachti, and I will take you as a nation. And also the 4 cups represent the matriarchs, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. So we have our founders, the avot in the matzah, our imahot in the 4 cups of wine. Now, one more thing at the Seder. Now, obviously, if anyone needs a Haggadah, let us know. If anyone needs Seder stuff, let us know. We could drop some Haggadahs in the mail, figure out how we can help everybody a little bit more. And the last point that I want to talk about is what launches the Seder? Questions. We start with questions. Why do we start with questions? Because questions are part of who we are and part of how we grow as people. We have to question constantly. I see someone, wrote in the chat and I can't see. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Why can't I see? That
was just me earlier.
Okay, fine. It's okay. The why questions, we talk about this in the beginning of Sinai Scholar, the night where we celebrate who we are as a people and who we start with, starts off with opening with questions, because it's not that Judaism is demanding blind faith from us. Judaism is demanding us deep questions, because through questioning, we own our relationship with our Judaism. We own our relationship with God. So we start the Seder with saying, and we have the young children do it, and that's not circling back. I think it's so important to focus on the fact that questions are fundamental and questions are a part of Judaism, and that we launch that night that way with the Manishtana, right? We ask, and to realize that who asks the questions? The children. And when I asked students what's their most memorable part of the Seder, I got different answers from different people. Some were song, some were spirit, some was family. Even amongst our own little group here, we saw we had different answers. Some was the food that they ate. Judaism gives us this incredible, immersive, multi-sensory, experiential learning experience, okay? In order to help us propel ourselves into self-actualization, to becoming a better version of ourselves. So we should leave the Pesach Seder a better version of myself through going through these, through eating these foods.
I just had an interesting thought. So the Gimel, this is like about like, well, the Gimel is like represents the or the way the Gimel looks represents someone running to do mitzvahs. It also has the gematria of 3, similar to the matzah. Our fathers who were the first people to follow the commandments and do mitzvahs, very similar to that. And the Daled after that represents 4. It also represents like a door frame or like an entrance way.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting that it says that we will do and then we will learn. That we will do the commandments and then we will learn about them. So I just think I just had the interesting thought that how those tie together, how we do the mitzvahs of Pesach, and then we also ask the questions as to why we do them. So I thought.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful to acknowledge that space of doing. We go through the motions, but those are not just meant to be, they're means to an end. They're meant to help us accomplish something. We're meant to walk away from the Seder a different person. It's true.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, and just to circle around, because I realized there was a little lack of clarity in the beginning. The rabbinic, the biblical obligation for Pesach is making the Kiddush, because it's a festive, right? A festival. Telling the story, V'yagadah lebincha bayom hahu, is a biblical command, one of the 613, and eating the matzah, right? On the first month, on the 14th day, you should eat matzahs techluhu. You should eat the matzah. That's the biblical. The rabbinic one, because I realized I didn't clarify, is the 4 cups of wine and the maror. Okay? Just want to clarify that. Make sense? Okay, so now I want to open up. We have another little bit of time. Any questions about practically how to make Pesach where you're at right now? Jump in. Let's ask them. From Pesach prep to Pesach food. Anyone want to jump in and ask a question?
How to navigate if there's still going to be chametz in the house.
Okay. Do you have your own room?
Yeah.
Okay. You need to sell your own room and your own possessions to the best of your ability. That is what you're able to do. If you have roommates or a family, you're not responsible. So you would sell online, and you can talk to Rabbi specifically details, sell online your own possessions. So clean your car, clean your room, and your food or your counter that you're going to use. Ask if you can have a designated shelf or counter, should be cleaned and lined, and everyone else does what they need to do. Brandon and Beth, both of you in Houston, there are caterers also doing Passover meals to go if you need. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding covering the countertops, I remember, I think from last year, I'm trying to remember, if you covered your countertops with 2 layers, and if so, how, like, what was the material? I remember you used contact paper.
I don't use contact paper. I use foil with blue tape, and then I put down the shelf liner plastic roll.
Okay.
It's not like you can't make Pesach without that, but if you can cover it double, it's just extra.
Yeah, no, we got contact paper. I was just wondering if you put a layer underneath first and then the contact
No, if you're doing contact paper, you're going to just put that down and then just, you can cover it with a plastic on top. We do.
But no, but it's like what you said. It's like not sticky contact paper.
Okay, so I would do foil on the bottom. That's why Veronica calls Pesach Festividad de Aluminium. Silver foil holiday.
Okay, so first silver foil and then the non-sticky contact paper.
You can get the blue painter's tape.
Yeah, we have plenty.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a home where that's not an option, wipe down the counters and just cover it with a tablecloth. Cover with plastic. Everyone has to be realistic to where we are. We're right now in what we would call Shas HaDchak. We are in challenging times. This is not a norm. So we gotta adapt. Yeah, go ahead, Beth. Jump in.
So what I'm struggling with is like my sister is in a different state right now, and I'm with my mom, and she doesn't want to do separate things with me. Like she wants to do the same thing, and she wants to like FaceTime with my sister, and I told her I don't want to do that. And so now,
Beth, I think you and I should talk privately about this, because I think that telling your mom not to FaceTime with your sister is not going to work, but maybe telling her, I'm okay with you doing it, I just don't want to do it. Yeah. Let's talk, because there's a curve, there's a learning curve, and we don't want, let's have a separate conversation about how to navigate this. And Brandon, also, if there's any questions that you specifically have at home, how to navigate it, like feel free to call me. We can quickly FaceTime and get Rabbi in a little rabbinic FaceTime. So how to handle it. Beth, as far as cleaning your room and your possessions, clean your car, remove all the chametz from your room, go online and sell your own chametz on Rabbi, on the website. I would do that. And then as far as how to navigate a holiday with your mom, there's a balance between kibbud av v'em. There's a balance between not telling her what to do and doing your own thing. Let's figure out that balance, okay? I'm very much aware of the fact that this is not a simple situation for anyone. It's not simple for us. We're doing Seders to go for people, and it's going to be a lot of work and not even that same satisfaction of sitting around a Seder table. So it's challenging for everyone. We're not living in the simplest times right now. Can I tell you? Hashem put us in a situation. He's put us in a lot tough. We've been in tough situations before, and we get out of it. So we're going to get out of it. I can't wait, guys. Wouldn't it be so cool to be having the Seder in Yerushalayim with Mashiach? Like, I'm so down. I am so down.
May it be sooner than later.
Amen, amen, amen. The world is definitely ready.
Sure.
All right, guys. Brandon, you have another question?
I was going to say the Mashiach should come now. And,
amen.
Amen.
I guess I could ask Rabbi on a separate note for how to kosher, making sure that specific utensils are kosher properly.
Yeah, I would also say if you can, just buy certain things temporary. Like, don't even torture yourself with koshering. Literally buy yourself a frying pan, a pot, a spoon, a cutting.
Like, for example, the oven and other items.
Okay, yeah. Call Rabbi about that. Just, Brandon, send him a message and say, when can I call you about this? Okay?
I'm putting a thumbs up.
All right. Goodbye, guys. Have a wonderful day. If you have any other questions, feel free to send me a voice note or drop a message, okay?
Thanks, Manya.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Manya.
Bye.
Bye.